I'm very pleased to be here. It is a great opportunity for me to come back to Navarra. But yesterday, when I came from Barcelona and looked at the weather, I was about to cancel because I've gone from summer to winter here in Pamplona. I'm going to talk about networks and talent. First of all, I'm going to talk about CVs. Leonardo da Vinci did one of the first curriculum CVs. He sent a letter whereby he sold everything that he could do, or build bridges, that sort of thing. So the CV, as we know it today, is now about 500 years old, although only over the last 60 has it been used as a tool to sell our talents, our experience, etc., and look for work and send them to the companies. But the world is changing. The CV has now a bit poor, a bit limited as a document, whereas if we look at the profile online or digital footprint, this gives us a lot more information about the person. If I'm evaluating a person, I can see that they've worked in a company for 5 years. I can look at the company, the size of the company. If I've got contacts in the company, I can look at the profiles. I can see what contacts that person has, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, etc., so that I can get a very good idea of a better idea of what that person is like. And the recruitment companies are using the social media and all the information that exists on the online to get a better idea of the talent of people. I'm going to talk about a few of the tools that we can use, because when you meet somebody, we're introduced, or you get an email, and we wonder, who is this person? There's a Reportive, which is a plugin for Gmail. And what it does basically, it gives you information. You send an email. This is my folder in Gmail. On the right-hand side, I get a message from Ignacio Fons. I get a photograph. I can see the type of person. He's wearing a suit, this sort of thing. And I can see here the qualifications. If that person is connected, we can see on what social media this person is talking, and we can get a better idea of what that person is like. And in order to evaluate the person, it helps us a great deal. Another tool that takes a step further and gives us a mark depending on our behavior in the social media. And basically, well, how does this work? Those of us who are in social media, we talk about different topics in certain social media, and what it measures is the reaction of our contacts, of our followers, about what we are doing. It gives us a mark. So people retweet, they disseminate things, and what Anna is doing, and I get a mark. For example, Guy Kawasaki, the highest mark, I think, is Obama, has 96, I think, who has a great deal of influence. Kawasaki is also a person who is well known in the US in the entrepreneurial world and has a high mark as well, 88. And we can see the profile, and this is a public profile. We can see which people he influences and who has influence on him, and it gives a much better idea of what that person is like. Another topic which maybe people don't familiar with is much more specific. This Stack Overflow is probably the tool of questions and answers that all the programmers choose. Any programmer who has a question, what they do is go here, you can go here, you can ask a question. And the interesting thing is the best answers are voted, so you create a reputation of the people who participate. So if I'm looking for a person or program with a technical profile, probably they'll be able to get the information from Stack Overflow. This example is John Stick. This person has been for a long time. We can see here on the left-hand side the evolution of his reputation, some questions, some answers, and to make it more like a game, they give you some medals depending on your behavior, answer quickly if you have responsibility, etc., and thus generating a technical profile of this person, which is quite powerful. LinkedIn, it does it the other way around, really. This is something, it's a typical reference letter. This is my profile. This person I know says, oh, he knows a lot about this, that, and the other. And it is me who has to judge the reputation or some of the contacts, and based on the profile, it tells me to vote this and that person. For me, it is much better the contributions in social media than if I know a lot or about a certain aspect. But every day what we do is create a profile, which is the digital footprint, whether we like it or not. It is difficult to get rid of it. And sometimes we are looking for a job or collaborators or partners. In the end, the people come here and we have a look and evaluate the people according to what is on the social media. This morning, we've mentioned the great information explosion, how quickly everything has evolved and everything is moving. With the tools and processes that we've worked with until now, we've seen how everything's changed so quickly, and there's no way of coping with this new situation. To give you a few details, there are more data generated over in the next 4 years than in history of the world. We try to do as best as we can. We are connected more than 12 hours a day, email, internet, Google, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Here it says 34 billion bits, of information. This is what we have access to every day, and having access to it and digesting all of this is very difficult. And now everything is going to be multiplied by 30. More things, all the information, all the data that is generated, 168 million DVDs. And every day, the emails that are sent, the whole capacity of the US to process, it would take 2 years to process everything physically. What is sent one day by email. And finally, the posts, for example, a Time magazine in 700 years, a whole lot of information I'm going to go very quickly on. And that means that things become obsolete very quickly. It's difficult because everything moves so quickly. A few data. What technical students learn becomes obsolete in the 3rd year, so they have to start again. Maybe 10 years ago, nobody would have thought that the most demanded posts are the mobile developers, Android, etc. And another interesting topic, the S&P, which says that 100 years ago, these are the 500 most prestigious companies in the US. These companies were 67 years, over 100 years ago, and now they're there for 15 years. So you can see how difficult it is for a company to maintain a position. So in the end, we come to the famous sentence, knowledge is power, Francis Bacon. Isn't it? Remember that knowledge is power. And do you understand? Well, I'm not telling you. Well, the idea is that they said that knowledge used to be like gold. The more you had and hung on to, the more powerful and useful you were. These days, think of it like milk. If you hang on to it, it goes off. And that leads me to say we've talked about know-how, knowledge, or it's rather know-who. And here I wanted to mention an anecdote. My last year as an HP, we bought some companies in Israel. And so we traveled often to Israel, Pau Molina, and he came to the hotel. He said, got a taxi, take me to HP. And the taxi driver didn't know where it was. And in the end, he said, well, who's the boss? Who was the boss of the company? Lambashani. And the taxi driver said, called here, there, and everywhere. And in the end, he said, oh, 20 such and such a street. And Pau was really surprised. They knew when he got back, he said, well, the taxi driver knew that the person rather than the company. And Alon, who's the Israeli, said very serious, you don't realize the social reality is completely different because everybody knows everybody else. And it gives us a great advantage. So it is knows who and not how. The reason for all of this, of course, is that they do their military service and they have to go back and do it again. So you mix with a lot of people, you know a lot of people. This is another quote from a person in HP. If HP knew what HP knows, we'll be 3 times more profitable. And this is a reality that I have experienced. I'm sure there is a question and somebody in HP knows how to answer it, but how do you find the person? And that leads you to a project started up by a colleague and I. It is all very well looking up in Google or in the library. Wouldn't it be more interesting to look go to the village and look for the person? Because when you find the person and you explain what you need, you create a context, and the person is going to adapt the knowledge to the context. Here we say knowledge is connected to all the prior experiences and exists only in the context of the mind. It cannot be managed. What can be managed are ways to enable the flow of that knowledge to others. And this leads me, I'm going to finish straight soon, the theory. It says the strength of weak ties. And basically says that every person has a connection, has a tie, friends, family, but then there are other connections, other ties that aren't so strong. And you have contacts of contacts. And he carried out a study about people looking for a job, and he discovered that 70% of the people who found work, they did so through friends and relations. And here it says what matters in getting ahead is not how close you are to those you know, but how many people you know to whom you aren't particularly close. And he concludes by saying that it's better for a community to be successful when he doesn't close the circle and is able to pass on the knowledge, the ideas to the other ties or contacts which are weaker ties in community. So for me, talking about talent, my recommendation, I know there are a lot of things, but from my personal, professional viewpoint, we have to do networking and we have to share and collaborate. As it says here, the currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. And I've seen this very clearly in Silicon Valley. The Americans, despite them being individualists, they share a lot as well. They don't mind telling you things. In the entrepreneurial world in Spain, people are afraid of telling their ideas to others, and that isn't a good thing, because if we've got a good idea and you share it, it's going to help you improve your idea. And I'm going to end up saying that no one knows everything, everyone knows something. All knowledge resides in networks. Thank you very much.